Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, beef. Practice beef, maybe over money. Lots to get to there. A lot of games in the NBA. Lakers playing without Anthony Davis with some back trouble against the Suns. First game of Donovan Mitchell with the Cavs. First Mavs game. We'll cover all that. Plus, it's Thursday. Count it up. We got lots to get to on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into this third edition of the Locked On NBA podcast, the best way to get all the latest and greatest news from around the association here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Tony East. I'm the host of Locked On Pacers. He's Pat, the designer, the host of Locked On Bulls, and we're here to not fight about contract extensions because we don't play for the Golden State Warriors. That's right, leading off the show today. Big news out of Golden State, Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole in practice over something that apparently has to do, we'll read through the Yahoo Sports report, potentially a money-motivated issue. We'll see what the deal with that is and what it means for the Warriors going forward. Lots of interesting games around the league tonight. Suns-Lakers with no Anthony Davis, extremely late scratch. The beginning of the Donovan Mitchell era in Cleveland, plus the Mavs, even though Luka did not play, get a win in their first preseason game. And it's Wednesday/Thursday for you listening. We're counting it up. We got lots to talk about today. Starting in Golden State, of course, where Draymond Green and Jordan Poole get in a tussle at practice. First reported by The Athletic, who calls it a physical altercation. And then Vince Goodwill of Yahoo says that this has been boiling over since training camp began. And he says both Poole and Green are up for contract extensions. It appears Poole will receive an extension, while Green knows he has to play the season out, playing a part and leading to Green striking Poole, sources said. Wow, what a moment there in the Golden State practice. We'll see if any discipline comes out. Any cause for concern for the Warriors here, Pat?
No, I mean, listen, isn't this just Draymond being Draymond at the end of the day? Like, I wasn't like when they were like, Draymond struck him. Of course he did. It's Draymond. Like, why are we surprised by any of this? And I don't know if it comes down to contract extension beef. I don't know if it comes down to who's staying with the Warriors and who might not be on the long run, right? Like, I think this is probably two guys in practice jawing back and forth with each other. We know Jordan Poole likes to talk. We know Draymond Green likes to talk. Sometimes it can boil over. I know was reading when this article dropped over on The Athletic, kind of, like this is the norm for these guys. Trash talk, physical play. It's who these guys are. And it's what they do to get themselves amped up to get to that next level. Of course, it does take that next step, right? Where Draymond does physically, I believe we're just saying that he punched him at this point. Like, I don't know. Like, it keeps going like physical altercation escalators. Like, that's a punch. Like, is it a punch or a shove? Like, what are we doing here? So I think, it probably got to a point where maybe it got a little bit too far. But we're blowing up about a punch to the face when in Chicago, that's one of Steve Kerr's most celebrated moments. Like, so what are we worried about?
Yeah, a lot of wording choices in the reporting. Adrian Wojnarowski says threw a punch in his reporting. So I'm calling it a punch. I'm calling it a punch. Thank you, Woj, for getting straight to the point. Yeah, I think you're right that it'll be a kumbaya thing because in Vince Goodwill's reporting that we were talking about earlier, he said Green was apologetic and emotional in the locker room following the altercation, but it was suggested he not approach Poole in the aftermath because the situation was too fresh. So the only way I can see this becoming a thing is if, like, long-term, beyond the season, they have to make a money choice. That means they can only keep one of the players. But in terms of their actual on-the-court situation, I'm with you. I don't think it will be something that causes any long-term rifts. And a little behind-the-scenes peek for you for the Locked On Podcast Network. I was trying to find a photo of Draymond Green and Jordan Poole to use for our YouTube thumbnail. And all the photos of them together, they're like psyched up on the court and like giving each other a hug and stuff. It's like, it's never good when a teammate punches another teammate in practice. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to the Warriors. But I don't think it's like such a big deal. That said, a lot of reporting said, hey, discipline could be coming. Discipline could be coming for Green as this goes to the next stage. I don't know what this is, but hey, you'll know about a comp we can go to here. How about the Bulls a couple years ago when Bobby Portis sent Nikola Mirotic to the
First thing I
hospital?
thought of.
Yeah, Bobby Portis, nice punch to Nikola Mirotic at Bulls practice, sent him to the
Little
hospital.
different. A little
A
different.
little different, little bit more.
Broken orbital socket.
Yeah, and that one was no kumbaya afterwards, which it sounds like we're heading to here. Bobby Portis was suspended, correct me if I'm wrong here, Pat, 8 games for that,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
But again, that one was more serious. I don't think this one will be 8 games, but I don't think it will be nothing. I don't think you punch a teammate in practice and get nothing. Maybe it's, if Poole's cool with it the next day and it said, I forget which one of these reports. There's a million of these. Here it is. In Woj, it says Poole wasn't hurt by the punch and completed his workout. Like, if they're tight and he's still healthy, maybe it's just a fine. But I'm betting there's some discipline coming just because he punched his teammate in practice.
Yeah, you got to do something, right? Like it'll probably, I doubt it'll be a suspension because, again, right, the Bobby Portis situation, very different. Bobby literally broke Nico's orbital socket. I think Nico might have been out for 2 months or 3 months after that, right? So like you actually technically hurt your team, even though we were terrible by then. Although outside of that, right, Bobby Portis came back and played some of the best basketball of his life after that. So I mean, there was that plus. But I'd expect to see a little bit of a fine here, probably, right? Like you can't do that in practice. You can't allow it to get to that point. But again, right, like for everybody who's coming out and there's going to be the keyboard warriors that are ready to pin Draymond to the wall. It's like, listen, these guys are competitors that spend hours on hours together, and sometimes they're going to have disagreements, and sometimes they're going to have arguments, and sometimes arguments may escalate. Guess what? If they go win another championship, we'll be talking about this just like we talked about Ray Allen and Rondo fighting, or just like we talk about, you know what I mean? Like all
Right.
of these, it's not the first time we've heard of this in the NBA. The shock is hilarious on Twitter, right? I will say this, Draymond, you do got to stop punching people that have more of an impact on the team than you currently do. Like that seems to be your thing. You like to get into it with people that are probably better than you. But I mean, at the end of the day, Draymond keeps winning titles, so shout out to him.
I will give one part of this that I say is maybe something worth monitoring going forward from Chris Haynes, who said there has been a noticeable change in Poole's behavior throughout camp from some Warriors teammates, whether that's related to how he feels about his role on the team or how he feels about his contract negotiations.
Yeah.
Potentially something to monitor. That is more important. If your veteran team that's a dynasty that you are recently added to as a part of doesn't like the way you're behaving, that's a problem. Now, does it warrant punching? Maybe not. I wasn't there. I don't know. But that actually could lead to a problem long term. And it's not, again, it sounds like it's going to work out based on what is said. But that is, I think, the more important thing for the Warriors to know is like, how do they keep Jordan Poole being Jordan Poole without him changing too much that it rubs teammates the wrong way?
But even that, right? Like I look at that, and here's the thing: sometimes that does happen, right? Sometimes the young kid on the block gets the big head, and guess what? The OG does, punches him in the face. Calm down. Like we're moving in the right direction. It's okay. Like it's cool to be the OG out here. It's cool to be like, listen, we understand you're good. We understand you're important to the team. You're not Steph Curry. Bow, chill out. Yeah, I mean, like I'm not like that. Actually, would make more sense in this whole situation. Like at the end of the day, Draymond was just trying to get him to chill.
Your punch you just did made my day. Like people not watching on YouTube, actually punched the air in front of him. Our YouTube viewers got a lovely view of that. We'll see if anything comes of this. I don't, like we already said, I don't think it will be extreme as the Portis thing, which is the most recent practice punch. And that one, ironically, was also about to a lesser extent, a roster money sort of dispute where Nikola Mirotic said, "Me or him." And Bobby Portis punched him, and then all the Bulls were like, "We pick him. We pick Bobby Portis."
I'm not gonna lie to you, anybody that walks up on Bobby Portis, we've all seen Bobby Portis. Like you walk, like the best part of that article was it said like Nikola Mirotic came across the court, and Bobby Portis was saying, "Don't walk up on me, or I'm going to punch you in the face." And Nico was just like, "Nah, he's not going to punch me in the face." It's like, you looked at Bobby's face and thought he's not going to punch you in the face? I don't know. The bad decisions were made.
What's the phrase called? F around and find out. I think that is applicable in this situation. So yeah, we'll see if any discipline comes of this. I don't think it will be anything significant or as significant as the past, given the context of the situation. Hey,
100%.
on a non-punching note, there were actual games last night. The Lakers played. That game is going to end in like 6 seconds. The Mavs played for the first time. Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs played for the first time. The Pacers played for the first time. Lots of new teams to cover, so we'll cover some of those games today here on Locked On NBA. Really quickly, though, before we do that, I got to talk to you guys about betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events. They got football going crazy on there, and you can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find over at betonline.net. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information. Live betting, up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. You name it, they got it. They got lines up for tonight's Thursday night football game. Denver Broncos hosting the Indianapolis Colts without Jonathan Taylor. Wowee. Broncos favored by 3 in that game in Denver. Russell Wilson should be able to pull that off, but we'll see. I am not a gambling expert. You can find all those lines and more over at betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events. MLB, NBA, MMA, boxing, golf, you name it, they got it. Head over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Thank you, everybody, for making Locked On NBA your first listen today and every single day. We got to make Locked On Warriors your second listen now, because Cyrus Ataz will tell you all about what the heck actually happened in Warriors practice. He has the scoop over from the Bay Area. Hey, let's talk about the games going on in the NBA today. Let's start with a fun one, Pat. Donovan Mitchell debut in the wine and gold for the Cavs, and they lose on a Montrezl Harrell buzzer beater. That's a painful preseason game if I've ever heard one right there. No one wants overtime in the preseason. Shout out to Montrezl Harrell for that. None of these teams played their starters in the second half. The result doesn't matter. None of these teams care about winning and losing, which is totally fine. But Cavs starters did well together. They went with Love, Allen, Garland, LeVert, and Mitchell in this game. No Evan Mobley, as he is currently injured. That said, 16-5 for Donovan Mitchell. He was a +5, 12-4 for Darius Garland. He was a +7, 5 and 2 boards for Jarrett Allen. He was a +5. And Kevin Love had 9 points and 7 rebounds. Whew. That team, that lineup specifically, their starters, Mobley in there, could be a scary group, Pat.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're a team, right, where I it's still a show me kind of thing, right? Like, I think when the games matter, it might be a little bit different. And I really want to see kind of how Donovan Mitchell meshes with his new teammates. The issue in Utah was never a lack of talent, but it was a lack of how that talent played together. Really want to see how Mitchell and Garland are going to work together. It looks perfect here. Game one, right? Like, I mean, they seemed like they worked pretty flawlessly together. But it's really going to be interesting to me to see kind of when things get going, when the pressure gets on, when it comes down to it, right? Whose team is this? Is this Donovan Mitchell's team, even though he's the newcomer coming into this? Is this Darius Garland's team? Is it going to be Mobley's like we thought as he continues to get better? How does Mobley's game improve, right? Like I said, early on, it looks great. I really thought that they played better than I expected them to right away. But I think, right, this Cavs team has such a dynamic that already was built that I already had them as a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference going into this before even making the Donovan Mitchell trade, just because of the size down low. Donovan Mitchell, I think, adds to that. But I've been on record saying, I think that he's a year older version of Colin Sexton, and we'll see how that kind of works out together.
Yeah, they're going to be a really interesting team too, because they don't have any wings. I think that's a fascinating, like, they're taking it to the extreme of, like, you have a ton of guards and a ton of big, but basically no wings. How good can you be? And they have an all-star like every position in their starting 5 except for on the wing. So, like, they're still going to be really good. I agree with you. But how good will be kind of based on that. And it looks like in game 1, that lineup worked pretty well. They went with Karis LeVert at the 3, which is interesting because he's kind of a more ball dominant-ish player, not necessarily a shooter. But we'll see how they ultimately end up going with that when Mobley's in the lineup. But LeVert played well according to the stats, at least.
Yeah.
in this game. So I think they can be dangerous. I think, seeing combined stats in 15 minutes for Garland and 19 minutes for Mitchell, we're talking here. They had 28 points and 9 assists, and both of them shot over 50%. Seems like they're going to gel pretty well. And I think a lot of it is that Jared Allen is just a brilliant screen setter. And none of this matters because Montrezl Harrell did a fake dribble handoff at the buzzer and scored. It wasn't quite at the buzzer. There was a few seconds left in the game. But shout out to the Sixers. And one guy we got to plug from this game. I don't think I've seen Tyrese Maxey miss a shot yet in preseason. That dude is cooking for Philly right now.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey is one of my favorite players. Unfortunately, he's the one player last season that I watched when the Bulls would play the Sixers, and I was like, yeah, we have no answer for that. Lonzo Ball put him on there, doesn't matter. Alex Caruso put him on there, doesn't matter. Ayo Dosunmu, who literally was stopping some of the best point guards in the NBA left and right as a rookie, did not matter. It was like, yeah, he ain't got that yet. You know what I mean? Maxey really taking a step. I think he's such a key piece to what Philly's going to be able to do. I believe he averaged 18 points per game next to James Harden, right? I don't know how ball dominant James Harden's going to be this season. I don't know if he's going to try and be the Houston James Harden, but the one thing that you can say, right, is if he does try to be more of a score first type of player, Maxey being his second option to pass it to outside of Joel Embiid makes that team so much more dangerous. I think the biggest question with that Philly team is Tobias Harris going to be the odd man out in that entire situation? He's making a lot of money to basically stand over there and be a spot up shooter. By the way, he's not a very good spot up shooter.
Pat, it just finished, and now we can make our jokes. Do you remember the transitive property from math very well?
No, that's why it's
okay.
Sports.
I'll explain it to you. So if A is bigger than B and B is bigger than C, that means A is bigger than C. That's the transitive property. So the Adelaide 36ers beat the Phoenix Suns earlier this week, and just now the Phoenix Suns beat the Los Angeles Lakers. Therefore, we can only imagine that the Adelaide 36ers would beat the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James in a game. Lakers play today. No Anthony Davis. Late scratch with a back injury. We'll talk about that and count it up because Anthony Davis with an injury is always bad news and something that happens quite often. The Suns, turns out they're not completely broken just because they lost to a team that hit a million threes. Devin Booker went crazy. Jock Landale went crazy. Darius Saric played well. And they were able to get it done against LeBron and a bunch of other dudes. LeBron had 23. Kendrick Nunn had 21, and no one else really stepped up. So I think the noteworthy stuff for me in this game is, one, the Suns are not just a completely broken vibe team. And two, hey, if Kendrick Nunn's this dude, the Lakers might be a little better off than people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, 100%, right? Like, I think the biggest question around Kendrick Nunn is just, can he be on the court consistently? Very much like most of the players with the Lakers. I think the Lakers brought him in feeling good about him at that point guard position and how he was kind of going to be able to help. If Kendrick Nunn's there, Russell Westbrook probably isn't, right? Like, I think that's really what you're looking at the end of that. The Lakers are going to be an interesting team. I mean, of course they lose tonight, but at the end of the day, right, it really comes down to what is Anthony Davis. Like you said, we'll get to that and count it up. But like, if Anthony Davis isn't there, this team is, again, outside the playoffs looking in my opinion. If Anthony Davis is there, this team could be as high as a 6th seed in the Western Conference. You know what I mean? Like, him playing, not only being there, but living up to the Anthony Davis that they thought they were bringing in there means that much to this team because it gives LeBron a second option, gives LeBron a little bit of rest. I still don't, as much as I loved Russ, I still love Russ. I think he's in a terrible situation for his style of game. I don't see it working there at all. And I don't think he's going to be an asset to that team coming into the season yet again.
I agree with all that. The Lakers are really relying on someone new to step up for that team, whoever it can be. And if it can be Kendrick Nunn, that would be huge because they need somebody to give them an element that they did not have last year. And maybe that's Patrick Beverley. Maybe that's a step up from Austin Reeves. Maybe that's Swindler. Maybe that's Toscano Anderson. I don't know, but they need it from somebody. And again, I still think the Suns are going to be really good this year, despite the fact that they lost to the Australian team. I'll run through this in 2 seconds by myself because no one watched this game but me. The Pacers played their first preseason game tonight. You don't have to laugh. I know that no one was watching that compared to other games. They smoked the Hornets, beat them by 25. The Hornets look like a complete mess. LiAngelo Ball played, which is cool. His second straight game getting on the floor, but the Hornets just looked completely disjointed. On the Pacers side, Aaron Nesmith was their best player and 6th overall pick. Benedict Mathurin looked awesome. He had 15 points and had no trouble getting into the lane. The last team making their preseason debut, thought we were going to spend a lot more time on this team than we are, is the Mavs. Their first game of the preseason, they win against the Thunder in Tulsa. Oh, but Luka Doncic didn't play. So not a lot to take away from the Mavs in this game. I do want to talk about one player, Christian Wood, coming off the bench. Big story for the Mavs. 16 and 13. Whew, big game. I mean, that could be, if he could be that kind of guy for them all season, that'd be huge because, Jalen Hardy, the rookie, Jaden Hardy, the rookie, 21 points for them. Like, those are the elements the Mavs need. Like, after you lose Brunson, you got to have somebody step up. And if Wood can be that guy, if Hardy can be that guy, oh, man, will the Mavs be happy.
And here's the thing. Can they be a combination of that guy? Can you get multiple positions playing well next to Luka at once? I think that would be a real surprise for a lot of Dallas Mavericks fans, right? Because they always are looking for that one guy to be opposite Luka, right? It was Jalen Brunson before. You were hoping it was going to be Porzingis before that. It just never worked out in their favor. And now, right, you're kind of looking at that Mavs team and you're saying, no, now we've got multiple guys in multiple positions, at least early on in preseason, that you feel like, okay, this guy might actually be able to do something. Jaden Hardy has been balling out here. Even just seeing him kind of in the offseason stuff, seeing him in Summer League, loved what we've seen from him. You look at guys like that and you say, that's what we need next to Luka moving forward. That might be the piece because Luka's got the mindset to take you a long way. Luka will get you to a Western Conference Finals like we saw last year. He just needs a little bit of help maybe to push him over that hump, and maybe Christian Wood and Hardy can be that for him.
Well, now that we've supplied takes about every game, I think we should say it's preseason. It might not matter at all 2 weeks from now. But, hey, it's fun to see teams play for the first time and some of these bigger market teams get it going. Time for one more segment here on Locked On NBA, and it's Thursday. It's our go-to segment to close out these shows. Count it up.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it. That's all I got for you. I don't have a beat.
I don't have the soundboard, man. I don't have the Nick Angstad swagoo to make the sounds go. And he gets to say, like, he pushes the one counted up, for each one too. Like I'm not fun. I just say count it up once and then I do the prompts.
You don't know J. Cole, that's all.
A couple here. Look, I don't want to not talk about Victor Wembanyama because I want to be cool like the rest of everybody. Because that was a sick game. That Scoot Henderson Wemby game was sick. And there's another one tonight because we're spoiled basketball fans. So I'm going to find a fun tweet I saw for you today. It says the most games in NBA history with 5+ blocks, 5+ threes, and 5+ rebounds. The most that one player has reached that is 4 times in their career. And that got me thinking, how many unbreakable records will Wembanyama have when his career is done? Over, under 3.5.
How many unbreakable records will he have in his career?
He's going to have so many, like no one will ever hit that stat line again kind of games, I feel
Can we let him start his career before we start going? I'm going to go, I'm going to go under right now because I don't know what this guy is going to be yet. Listen. He looks amazing. He looks like he's going to come into the NBA and be a force. He's 7'4". He stole I need people to understand this. He stole a basketball from a dude that was standing like 3 feet behind the 3-point line, and he was standing inside the 3-point line, not guarding him. He wasn't even guarding him. He just stuck his arm out and stole a ball. He's going to be ridiculous. But let's not all of a sudden crown him what would this be? The French Hakeem? We've got so many different Jordans that have come up, right? Like we got to pick it. He's not going to be a Jordan. What is he going to be? The French Hakeem Olajuwon? Is that what we're saying here?
So you're right. That's a very reasonable take. He is what, 17, 18, has never played an NBA game. Here's why I think he's got a shot to put up a ton of records. Like Wilt put up a ton of crazy records because he could run forever and play 48 minutes a game, and he was tall as hell. And that's where I think I understand that as time goes on, basketball players will continue to get more and more and more skilled. That I understand. But humans don't just get taller.
No.
It's not. And so being 7'4" is going to be something that he'll have, and that Wilt, who has all these crazy records, had. That no one else will have. So if he does pan out, I feel like he's going to have a ton of these games where it's like, man, no one until there's another 7'5" dude who can dribble, shoot, block, like do all this stuff that just no one will ever eclipse. So I think it's possible that he does that. The rational person to me agrees with you that it's under. Maybe I should have gone lower than 3.5. So
I
I'll say
think
over for fun, man.
I think the interesting thing is, like, as I was watching the game, right? Like, not to say he's not amazing at all, but I was watching Scoot Henderson as well, just do very like NBA level player moves.
Yes.
And I was like, I know like 17 guys in the Eastern Conference alone that do that move, and he got past Wembanyama. So that's why I'm kind of like, listen, I think he's gonna be great. Let's let him get to the league first. He puts on Giannis weight, I'm scared. I'm in fear.
That might happen. That might happen. I'm excited to see round 2 of that tonight. All right, number 2, we alluded to it. Anthony Davis, late scratch from Lakers Suns, back injury for a guy who's hurt all the time. Look, we don't know much about this, but he was probable for their last game with this. He was in the starting lineup and then out. Panic meter 1 to 10. Anthony Davis.
I would go right now, right a 5, because I think if it's something serious and we would know more about it, he probably wouldn't be sitting on the sidelines. He wouldn't be just hanging out, walking around, doing everything normal. I think this is more so, hey, I'm feeling a little tightness from practice. Also,
Yeah.
when did he say he hadn't picked up a basketball since like June or something like that? So he's probably getting back right kind of into that shape, getting his body ready to go for the season, just doing practices and stuff like that. And they're not going to risk him in preseason. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'd say a 5, which maybe is high, right, for most people, but I'm not worried about Anthony Davis starting the season. If this were a regular season game, you might even see him play.
Yeah, if this were a regular season game and he was ready to go until he was in too much pain with his back to play right before the game, then I'd be at a 5. I think that because it's preseason, there's still time for him to get it right. I'll go like a 3, but this dude has had some injury concerns these last couple years in a way that I feel like it had to be discussed, and that's a big story in the league.
No,
when,
100%.
there was a lot of chatter about him being healthy this year and how much it could change the Lakers. Well, here we go, injury number 1.
When you play 2K as you and you get hurt, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like
That's horrible.
Dang, bro. Like
this signing really slid under the radar because of the day it happened, the timing it happened, and because he's not like amazing anymore. But the Celtics signed Blake Griffin, and that has not, for many reasons, been talked about. But it did happen, and it's always good on these kind of teams. 1 to 5, importance to the Celtics this season. Blake Griffin.
You know what? I'll go with a 3 here, because I think they'll utilize him. The thing with Blake last season wasn't that Blake all of a sudden couldn't play basketball anymore. Wasn't that Blake was a terrible player. Wasn't that Blake had no game. The Nets just didn't like him. They signed him just to throw him on the bench, like to say that they had 15 players. Like, he didn't get used. He didn't get ticked. He didn't get an opportunity to get on the court. I'm not going to say that he's going to all of a sudden come in there and be a deadly force on this team. But as a guy coming off of the bench, right, if Blake Griffin's still giving you 10 to 12 points, 4 or 5 rebounds a game, right, that's very important. That helps you a lot, where you can get your starters some rest, where you can get some guys off your bench some rest. Now, with Time Lord, having his issues and stuff like that, Blake might get a little bit too many minutes. We don't really know, kind of, like that team's going to be interesting in that aspect. But I think Blake Griffin's importance to the Boston Celtics is about a 3, a really solid role-playing bench piece for them.
Yeah, I think that the big thing for what he can be for them is like another Al Horford, another just good vet to have around. Even if he's not playing, he's been around, he's been to some conference finals, he's been on good teams. Like, that's valuable to have around. And especially for a team that just lost their coach, that sort of guidance, I think, can be extra helpful. So even if he barely plays for them, I'm all in for that. I think that's a pretty good signing for that team, especially one that needs a little bit of interior depth after the Robert Williams injury situation going on. Last one here for Count It Up. DeMarcus Cousins sneaking into a podcast today. Did an interview with Chris Haynes, kind of talking about admitting to some mistakes in his past, about how he kind of handled his behavior and stuff like that. He's now realizing he's not like a franchise player. And of course, he's trying to land on a team. Surprisingly not on a team. He played pretty well for Denver last year, though I understand why they're not bringing him back. So this one's easy. Over under 0.5 teams for Boogie this year, a.k.a. will he get signed?
I'm going to take the over because at the end of the day, talent trumps all. Boogie's a talented player, even with a lot of the issues that come along with having Boogie on a team. Right, he's still talented. Yes, he's not the same level of player. No, he's not going to. He's probably not going to. His body's probably not going to hold up for an entire NBA season. Right, he's going to be a bench big for you. But I'm still a guy that is a big believer in, guys transitioning their career into a different level. There's no reason Boogie Cousins can't be 10 to 12 points, still give you sometimes that old Boogie Cousins where he is that dominant player down low, still able to do a lot. I mean, he's a shooter. He's a shooter. He handles the ball well. He's still got the post game, right? There's a lot of things he's still able to do. I think he ends up landing on a team. I do think him talking about his attitude issues at times where when you were a franchise player, right, that fire in your belly meant a lot to teams because, he's got that. When you're a bench piece, you can't be the guy that's getting technical fouls left and right because you're pissed off at something the rest said, because now you're not as important to the team as you once were. So I think he'll get signed. I don't, I the Lakers, like, I don't know where, like, I mean, there'll be some team that looks at him and says we need a piece, but I don't know where he'll land.
Brooklyn makes some sense to me. That they don't have great front court group, but this is kind of sad to say because he was amazing. He was such a good player.
He was the best big man in the NBA at one point.
Yeah, before his knee problems with New Orleans, but I mean, this year could be like one of his last chances, maybe his last chance. So like if he gets a deal somewhere, he's got to not only be good, he's got to be, a good dude.
Yeah.
Really fit into an ecosystem somewhere and show that he can be that teammate kind of guy.
Because the age on Boogie. What is he, 31? He can't be
32.
That old. 32. He's not that old. I know he's not.
Right. He's got miles to go, and he basically had a season off from the knee stuff. So we'll see what happens with him. I also think he lands on a team this year at some point. Who I don't know, but if he can change just slightly as he's admitting that he needs to, I think that could be good for the longevity of.
Take him on a backup for action. I'll take him.
A lot of teams could use him in the Central Division. That is certainly true. Hey, tomorrow is Friday on Locked On NBA. That means you'll get Wes Goldberg and Adam Mares. They'll give you power rankings. They'll talk about news from around the league. I'm sure they'll talk about two of Wembanyama versus Scoot Henderson, so you won't want to miss that. Pat over there on my right, your left, whatever, is over at Locked On Bulls. Listen to Locked On Bulls, hear the latest and greatest about that team, and he's on Twitter at Pat the Designer. If you want to hear more about the Indiana Pacers, I'm your guy at TEastNBA on Twitter. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Locked On NBA.